lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and back with me again for another episode is Jen. And this week, the book we picked is Ed the Happy Clown by Chester Brown. You know, I think I told you last week when we were talking that, you know, I had heard about Chester Brown because of his book Yummy Fur that he did, which is where he serialized, you know, Ed the Happy Clown and some other stories. I think I'm assuming it was more of an anthology book with a bunch of stories within it, produced over a few years. It wasn't like a consistent like monthly book or anything, but you know, I saw his stuff on Cartoonist Kayfabe, so I'm like, okay, it had been on my radar to check out, and I finally I'm like, I'm gonna order it. And the title is very misleading, which I already knew. It's this clown is not happy by any means. This is probably one of the weirdest comic books that I've ever read in my life, but I enjoyed it. You know, I thought it was really good. But it's like, again, I don't know. I made sure not to, when certain books, if I start to see that they interest me, I turn off videos if they're talking about it and they're going through page by page, because I don't want to ruin it. And I'm glad I did, because like I had no kind of like, I don't want to say expectations, but I really didn't know what was going to take place in this book. And you know, it starts off with like a couple short stories, but then we get a longer one towards the end. And the thing I do like in the back where he kind of, I don't want to say he explains himself, but I didn't read, yeah, I didn't read all the notes because
Chester Brown, it's the third book I read from Chester Brown, and in all of his book there's a notes section. Okay. Because he usually writes nonfiction or memoir comics. So I read, like I said, 2 other books from him. He has a really like particular style, and I was really curious to read Ed the Happy Clown because it's different. Like I said, he usually writes nonfiction and memoir, right? So, and Ed the Happy Clown is based on work he did as fanzine. I don't know how you say that in English.
Fanzine?
Fanzine, yeah. So that's it's basically it came out of his work on fanzine, and that's why I think it's a little bit weird, and like it was more experimental than, because he like, I don't know, I have the French version, and at the beginning of the French version, Chester Brown explains that he was writing this because he wanted to write more. He just wanted to write more on a daily basis, and he started writing those like short stories, and it just became like experimental essays and just like exercises to just, you know, stimulate his imagination, I guess. So that's why I think it's so weird. But when you look at it on that perspective of like a work that came out as just like wanting to write more on a daily basis, it's kind of really smart, I think. Like the stories are really weird and like, so I can't even describe them. It's just so weird. But at the end, it kind of makes sense. Like when you read the whole thing, you're like, okay, like I can get it, you know? I can understand like the process of this book.
Yeah, it's like it's very surreal, like surrealism, you know what I mean? Like what he's doing, and it's almost like a fever dream. Like none of it really makes sense, but then at the same time, like it does like make sense within the context of the story he's telling, but the story itself is like, what in the actual fuck was he thinking when he wrote this, you know? Like, I think even like people assume Chet, like in the main story, was him, but he says in the back that it was never meant to be. Like he does pull a little bit from his life, but this was like really just him kind of like putting stuff out there. Like you said, like he was just writing and not necessarily, forgot the phrase he used, but he talks about it, how it was like an exercise in like, right from Freud, I think is what he mentions.
Like I said, I read it in French, so I loosely translated it, but it's still like, even I'm surprised because I got a French copy, and it usually is like disappointing, like
Oh,
sometimes like the
here,
translations, but this one was
yes.
really great.
So this is what stood out to me in the notes. Like, I know we're supposed to be just talking about the comic, but the notes really kind of help paint the picture. And like I said, I didn't read all of the notes. I just read mostly the beginning of it because I want to read this again and then I'll read the notes. I want to
Yeah,
try to see what I can take from it by myself because I feel like this is something that would benefit from multiple reads. But he says this sentence in here where embracing surrealistic spontaneous creation gave me an artistic direction at a time when, to be frank, I had nothing to say. That sentence to me was so powerful and completely changed the way I looked and at the book, the way I felt about the book. And that's not to say that it made me like it more. It kind of had this over. It changed my overall feeling, and I thought that that was interesting. Like this was just about spontaneous creation. He had nothing to say. He didn't have like, oh, I want to write this book about relationships, or I want to write
yeah.
this book. Like, no, this was him just fucking. He wrote to write. There was nothing like no ulterior motives, no over underlying themes, and I think that that is. I mean, it's evident when you read this fucking book. Like, it's crazy. I mean, the dimensions and like these people are coming from this dimension. They're like little people, and then they're coming out of this one dude's fucking asshole. You know what I mean? Like I was like, what am I like? What am I reading right now? Like at first, like I'm like I don't even get what his point is, but that is the point. Is he's not trying to like he does kind of touch on like
I mean,
within that
there's
story, he touches on
yeah.
like gay, like oh no, they're homosexual, we hate them. You know what I mean? Like because of because of the Ronald Reagan scene, which I don't want to like ruin too much of the little intricacies of it because I want people to experience it if they haven't read it. But like that part and like oh how we have to get him back into there and like then they just fucking kill people and then you have the dude who kills the fucking girl
Yeah,
and then she keeps dying, but she keeps coming back, and she's with it. Like, it's just I don't want to say it's a depressing story, but it's
but it's not
not
happy.
happy by any stretch of the imagination. There's nothing happy about this book, but it is solid cartooning. The writing is really good. I mean, like now I know we're waiting. We're gonna read Paying for It. I want to wait though. I don't want to read it too soon because I even wish I would have waited one more day to read this. Like the past couple weeks, like I've had that extra day. Like we were recording Saturday, so I had all day Friday to kind of read. But since I work, I'm like I don't want to. I want to make sure that I get this done. I didn't think I was going to read it as fast as I did either. I read it in one sitting.
Yeah, me too. I read it in one setting, and it was surprising because I was like, I'm gonna have to like cut this book in like multiple sessions. But no, I read it all like all the way through. Surprisingly easy to read, although it's like super weird and you don't understand what's happening. It's still easy to read. You don't have to like pause and reflect and being like, what the hell did I just read? It's just like it's a flow, you know? It flows quickly and easily, and that's something. I mean, from someone who like I read previous Chester Brown and I recognize his style even if it's very different. And that's something interesting because I was 100% sure that would be like that I would not be able to recognize Chester Brown in this book because it's so different. But no, even in his cartooning style, it's still like close to other books he did, everything. Yeah, I was just it was so weird. I can't say that I loved it, but I can't say that I disliked it. I think it's just like an experience, you know? Like reading
Yes,
this is an
that's how I felt.
experience.
Yeah. Was this your first time reading it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought I because I saw that you had read a Chester Brown book on your Goodreads, paying for it. But I didn't go through your list of I don't even think there's a way to go through people's lists to see all the books they've read. But I had seen that you read that. I assumed you read this book already,
No.
but
I
all right,
read
cool.
Paying for It and Louis Riel, which is a historical memoir of the Louis Riel, who is a Canadian like an important Canadian character in the Canadian history. So he like it's so different. Like you go from writing a historical memoir to you go from Ed the Happy Clown to Louis Riel, which is a historical memoir. It's like there's a gap in between, you know, like it's really weird and different. But like I said, in all of his book, there's always like a notes section, and it's really cool because he does like either he does a lot of research or like he analyzes a lot. Like, why did I write this? Why did I put this? What this character means? What is this supposed to mean? And that's something very, I think, unique. I've never really seen this before in any other like comic books.
No, dude, he's very like he's on a different kind of level
Yeah.
intellectually, and it's very clear. You know, like that's why I feel like I don't want to say I feel stupid because like maybe I miss stuff, but I feel like it's something that I need to like read where I don't feel like I have like, oh, I have to. I didn't feel like I had to get it done, but at the same time I'm like I'm talking about this on Friday. I want it to be fresh in my mind, so I have to
Yeah.
read it somewhat fast. But like it made me want to check out his other stuff, and I appreciate like the notes in the back because like he like full disclosure, like he doesn't mind talking about himself and like his inadequacies, you know, as a cartoonist. Like he even says like the Beanstalk story, which is in the beginning, is the strongest cartooning in this book. I feel like I got weaker as as the story went. I was like, God damn, dude! Like talk about self-deprecation. But I mean, and I after I read that sentence, I'm like, let me see what he's talking about. So I fucking went back and I'm like, oh, I do kind of see it. It was a little bit stronger in those scenes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just a little bit, not enough for me to notice as I was reading. But going back, I flipped and I looked at both, you know, the end story and the beginning. And I know that he added stuff, you know, for each volume. Like he had to censor some stuff for when it first went in print.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and I think it's clear why anybody that's read this book. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but like there is some scenes in here, man.
You need to
That
be prepared. Like it's not a book you can pick up. Like you need to be not every reader can read this book because there's some like really weird shit happening in this. And I think like some people might be offended. Although like I don't agree with like censorship or stuff like that, but I think like you need to if you are the type of reader that is easily offended, you need to read up about this book first because
maybe
it's
don't read the book. Yeah, if
yeah,
you're easily offended, because there is a lot that will offend.
there is a
Especially
law that can
if you
offend.
like if you like Ronald Reagan, this probably is not the book for you for sure.
But I've read that this book got so like because he makes fun of not makes fun, but I don't think he makes fun of everything. It's just so weird and put in such a weird context that it's like it can offend certain people. And I heard that this book got a lot of like backlash of like about sexism, like against religion. Um, uh, Obviously he talks also about homophobia, but like the way the way it's in the book, it's like it's a little bit like subtle. Like it's not. I don't know how to explain this, but yeah, there's a lot of like
It's not very overt. It's not like, oh, I'm talking shit about gay people. It's not like that,
exactly,
right? It's not like, oh, I'm talking shit about religion, because like you have to realize where the hatred or the not hatred, yeah, where the hatred for gay people come from is the mouths that it's being said through. They're idiots, and that
yeah,
like you know what I mean. So you don't like really respect what they're saying anyway. So it's not like he's putting it. It's I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, he's not like directly like attacking anybody. He's putting it in the mouths of morons. You know what I
exactly,
mean? Like
exactly. And you have to understand the context. Like it's you have to understand that he's not agreeing. For example, homophobia. He's not agreeing with homophobia because the characters are idiots. They are portrayed as fucking stupid people, and it's the irony and the like over the top characters that brings the situation. It's so complex. Like you have to like really read it to understand, but again, you have to read it with a mind of like not being offended with everything.
yeah, I think you have to be very open minded
Exactly.
to read this book, which is and the reason I'm also saying open minded is because you think about like the majority of this story is that one narrative. We had a few, in the beginning, but like the main one with Ed and like this other dimension coming to our dimension. But what I thought was funny was the dimension with more open-minded people was the United States of Canada, right? And then you come to this dimension as the United States of America with a bunch of idiots. Now, you could kind of say that he's almost making fun of America, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me at all.
He kind of does because at some point, like I said, I don't know if it's the exact quote because like I said, I read it in another language, but at some point, a character is talking about this other dimension, and he says he comes, the Canadian comes to America, and the America guy says that we have the same dimensions, but everything here is bigger. And it's true, like everything in America is so much bigger. The food, the stores, everything is bigger. It's like
Yeah.
little things like that like it's subtle, but you still realize, and it still makes fun of in a way that's
In a
not
smart way.
making
It was very
exactly.
smart. The only thing I was trying to analyze too, and I don't think that he ever got to it in the notes. Again, I didn't read them all, but was like the endless shit. Like they didn't know what to do with the shit. They just like left piles of shit, and then when he comes here, he's like, "Oh, you guys have a toilet. Where does this go?" He like,
Yeah,
I
but it says where does it go? But then the character says, "Oh, it just goes in lakes and rivers." Oh, it's
yeah.
so smart. Like it's,
It's not.
you
It's
know?
not smart. Yeah. It's just, there's just so much like there's just little fucking funny things within this like really, really weird story that like is indescribable. I couldn't describe it to you, and I don't know if maybe I'm missing something. Like maybe it's just, and I'm fine with saying it. Maybe it's on a level that I'm just not. Maybe there's a certain level of it that I don't get, and that's why this is something I want to read more of. But like I can respect the shit out of what I did read, what I did get, and the writing and the cartoon. Like I said, it's all very solid. And like I mean, he's got a few books. He's got Paying for It, the Playboy I saw.
Yeah,
I Never Liked You, The Little Man. I'm not going to pronounce that because I can't say it. The one you were talking about.
L'Uriel.
Yeah, I don't want to say. I'll try to brush up on my French soon so that I could start saying it correctly. But yeah, like I want to read everything this dude's done now. And I know Chester Brown wrote this is one of the earliest stuff that he did. Paying
Yeah, because he
Forward is
was
later.
20-ish when like he
Yeah,
started writing at the Happy Clown. He was like 20, 22, 20 something.
I know he's bald now. I know he's. Yeah, I mean he was really young when he was writing this. To
Yeah.
imagine somebody in their 20s creating such a unique project, like, and like I said, like I watched the Kayfabe channel, right? They talked about there was a magazine called Wizard Magazine.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know what year you were born, but I feel like it ended when you were very young. It just stopped, like, and there's a lot of, a lot of shit came out of Wizard, a lot of speculation came out of Wizard, a lot of propping up stuff that didn't necessarily need to be propped up. It was, I would say, it was almost like a gossip type magazine, with some news. Uh, but there was a segment called Palmer's Picks, and he would spotlight really, really good indie stuff and stuff that he was reading. And Yummy Fur and Chester Brown stuff was in there, and that was how I discovered it, because it was one of the episodes where they were going through Wizard magazines, and it was the Yummy Fur Palmer's pick, and I'm like, oh man, that sounds interesting, and like I kept hearing like the respect and admiration they had for Chester Brown, and I'm like, I gotta check this out. Like any creator, any cartoonist that they would talk about in that respect, I knew I'm like, I have to check their stuff out, because Ed Piskor and Jim Rugg, I love their stuff and I respect their opinion on stuff. So I'm glad that I finally, I don't know what took me so long to order. I think I was, yeah, I'm really digging the book. Like I'm thinking back on it, like it's just, there's just so much to analyze here. Like you could,
Yeah.
like you could literally go page by page and discuss what he's doing in here, because it really is. there's so much going on within the context of just that main story. And even though it's called Ed the Happy Clown, like you see Ed, but he's kind of more of a background character. Like he doesn't really say or do much.
He doesn't say much, yeah, because I don't want to spoil it, but he's basically the like Ronald Reagan is more of a character than him, but they come together, you know?
Yeah.
So there's no choice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I really want to talk about it, but I don't want to ruin it because I don't even. If you would have told me that that's what was going on in this book, I probably would have wanted to read it just as much as I wanted to read it before. But I think it would have taken away because, like, you flip that page and you see it, you're like, what the actual fuck am I looking at right now? But and I don't know like why Reagan. I get well, Reagan was president, I guess, when he was doing this, right?
Yeah,
Was it late?
I
Because
guess
it was late '80s.
it
Was it
was in
late
the
'80s?
80s. Yeah.
Yeah, '83. Like this is over the course of like from '83 to '89.
Yeah.
I think because '92 was when he said the first like graphic novel of this came out. Yeah, I mean, I love the book, man. I really dug the book, and I am excited to check out more. But how would you compare this to the other stuff?
Like I said, it's completely different, but you can still sense his signature style. I really respect Chester Brown as a cartoonist because I think he writes really smart stuff. And this is just my personal opinion, but from what I get from his writing is that he doesn't care. Like he writes for himself. If he has an idea, he's gonna write it, and he doesn't care if it hurts people, if it's like people are offended by his stuff, especially in paying for it, which is one of my favorite. I mean, it's so I don't want to say anything because we're gonna do a video about it, but paying for it is really incredibly smart. And like I said, he does a lot of research when he writes his book. So either he researched himself, so he does like inner research, or he researched the character he's writing about. Like in Wretch, he wrote a book about this historical character, and there's a lot of research, but there's still this his own perspective in his own book. So like I said, he writes really smart stuff and he just doesn't care. And for me that's really refreshing because I hate when writers write stuff for the reader. Like I hate when they keep in mind like, oh, I'm gonna change that word because it's gonna offend someone, or I'm gonna change that storyline because it's gonna offend someone. Just write whatever you write, and if people are offended, then they're gonna get offended. It's not the writer's fault if someone is offended. It's your own fault, you know? Like it's
Hmm.
okay to be offended with something, but you can it comes to censorship, like you can censor everything. And I feel like Chester Brown, like I said, he just doesn't care, and it's amazing. And Ed the Happy Clown is 100% that. Like
Yeah.
he just doesn't give a shit. He just wrote whatever he had in mind. He wrote it, he published it, and like it was a done deal. You know, he didn't care like of the aftermath, or he wasn't afraid of like hurting someone or anything. It just like came out as a really interesting, weird but smart book.
Yeah, I wonder how. Like, I do agree with that, and I think that that's the problem with. I mean, you don't obviously. It's easier to not give a shit when you're writing your own self-published work or you
Yeah.
create your own stuff, right? Like, you can't do that if it's a corporate character. You can't just do whatever you want. I mean, while I would love to see certain creators at Marvel and DC, I think you'd get way better stories if like the creators were just let loose and like do what you want with this character. It doesn't matter, and then the next month it doesn't have to account for the next story. Anybody can just come and do. And I think that even in terms of like when they do like their little separate stories, like they still don't fully let creators do what they want. I mean, Batman Damned is like a good example of
Yeah.
editorial being like, oh no, we can't. You gotta change that, dude. No, we're getting pushback. So to read stuff like this, where a creator is just like, I don't care about what anyone else thinks. This is the story that I want to do, and I'm going to do it no matter what. People are going to love it. They're going to hate it. I don't care. This is what I'm doing. And it's easy to see why his stuff is critically acclaimed. It's easy to see why everyone has this like deep respect and admiration for all his work. I can only imagine what this would have been like picking up like an issue of Yummy for like those all of those issues are like super rare. Like they're super expensive
Yeah.
now to get.
Let me
So
ask you a question. Do you think that if Chester Brown was to publish Ed the Happy Clown today, like it didn't exist before, he started creating it today and he's gonna publish it in 2021. Do you think that would pass? Do you think that would be possible?
yes, I do think that I think publishers like Drawn and Quarterly, Fantagraphics, they will publish whatever fucking story and they don't care. If it's a well written, well drawn story, it doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? Like if they like the work, they put it out. Like Ed Piskor's Red Room. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard about it. I don't know if you've seen what it's about, but I mean, it's gory. It's like easily gonna offend a shit ton of people. I'll tell you right off the bat. Like I've seen the pages, but Fantagraphics is putting it out. They don't care. You know, like are people gonna talk shit? Yeah, of course. There's internet. So like back then, what are people gonna do? They're gonna write letters, but it's not gonna be for everybody to see. Like now, I think that I don't want to say he'd get canceled, you know, but I feel like maybe there would be more people being vocal about what they don't like. But I mean, anything that's going to touch on weird subjects or any type of hatred towards, you know, political views, religious views, sexual orientation, there's always going to be a faction of people that are going to throw hate at it, especially nowadays. I mean, we see it. There was a song that I was listening to, and I told Dylan, I'm like, dude, that shit would not fly in today. Like, I guarantee you that dude would have been canceled. You know, like, and it's not even that big a deal. It's like whatever. So he's saying what he says in the song, you know. And it's not even that old of a song. I think it was like early 2000s. But it just goes to show you like how much our culture has changed and how like it bothers me. We talked about cancel culture, you know.
Yeah.
I think it really limits creativity when you cancel, like, whatever, you want to cancel somebody because they're a piece of shit, that's a completely different story. But if somebody's just telling a story like what Chester Brown did in here, and you find something within the work and be like, oh no, we can't support his work because he's doing that, you know, like, art's subjective, you know, like, you don't know what his intention was, are you, unless you're him, or unless he vocally says like, this is what I intended with this story, you know, like, oh fuck, I hate gay people. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well then you can hate him. Then you could just, you know, but I think like Howard Chaykin is another creator who just does not give a fuck about, I mean, he said it when I talked to him. Like, I don't need to make comics. You know, I do it because I love comics. That's what I do. And he did a book called United States of Hysteria, I think is what it was. And he had like there's a Muslim, I think a man or woman on the cover, and like he got a lot of hate, and like the Comicsgate people were like, oh man, and like so then they thought like, oh, we'll bring him on board with us, and he's like, I don't want to work with you motherfuckers. That's exactly how he worded it to me. I don't want to work with those motherfuckers. Why would they think that I want to work with them? Because he's very progressive, very liberal. You know what I mean? I don't know why I went off on this tangent, but it'd be interesting to see what a book like this coming out nowadays would how people would feel about it. But this printing alone was not that old, right? I think it's 2000.
To 2012, I think 2012.
Although a lot has happened since 2012, so
Yeah. Okay. So
there's
he modified it twice. Once in 2005 and once in 2012. And
yeah,
then like because he put them in a volume, right? He put them in a book because it was small stories at the
yeah.
beginning.
hmm That's what I love about Drawn and Quarterly. Drawn and Quarterly and Fantagraphics have become two of my favorite publishers over the past like couple years. Like I check out a lot of their stuff. Adrian Tomina, he does a lot of dope stuff from Drawn and Quarterly. I just picked up a Julie Doucet book that she did. I think it's called My New York Diary. It's another she was coming out around the time that like Chester Brown was doing, you know, some of his stuff, and she wrote a book called Dirty Plot,
Yeah.
and they have a complete collection, and I almost ordered it, and I'm like, hold on, I had to like calm myself down, like don't get too fucking excited with yourself, Ryan, you know, and I was like, is there any other books by her that I can get first? Because I mean I shouldn't start off with a creator buying a $120 collection of their work. Yeah, so I got the smaller one. I mean, I flipped through it and I love her art. You know, I love her energy. So I'm probably gonna get Dirty Plot. But you know, I think that I mean, fuck, dude, you guys up there in Canada, you guys produce some fucking dope cartoonists. You know what I mean? You guys have so much cool shit coming from over there.
Well,
And we
Chester
talk.
Brown is really known to be one of our like best and greatest cartoonists of the moment. And like it's not hard to see why. Everything he pulls, everything he writes is good. Everything, well, I mean, not for everybody, but you, even if you dislike the story, you can still admit that he is a strong writer and he is a strong cartoonist. Like,
Oh yeah.
even if you don't like his art or his style or whatever, it's still there. It's a fact. He is a strong creator. That's it. It's just good. And I think, I mean, I like saying that he's Canadian because it's like, yes, we have fine, we have one. No, we have a lot of good creators, but
Quality
quality,
creators.
yeah, yeah. And Chester Brown is definitely like in the top.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy too because like I believe that some of like the beginning stories are like early work of his.
Yeah,
So he came out strong. I would compare that to like his how like the Hernandez brothers, how strong they came out with like their
yeah.
first published work, like already fully formed, strong writing, strong cartooning, strong I mean hand lettering, you know what I mean? Like all of it, the entire package is there. And like, you know, I keep saying I'm really we got to do paying for it like sooner rather than later because I want to
I
read the fucking
cannot
book.
wait to talk about this book. I have
Yeah.
so much to say about paying for it.
I know you do. I definitely like we got to push it up on the schedule or something, man. Because oh man, I'm just so stoked to read it. I want to get the rest of the stuff too. I don't know if all of it's available from our distributor, but if not, I'll probably have to find it online. But so you've only read the other two, those other two, huh?
Yes, but I want to read more. I've been interested in what's the title? The cover is like two women hugging each other. I don't it's like what's the titles again?
The Playboy, I Never Liked You.
I Never
The
Liked You.
okay,
This one, it sounds really interesting to me from what I've seen. But Playboy seems cool too. I mean, everything that he pulls out, I think it's gonna be like interesting because he has this like specific style, and I like how like crude he is. Like his writing is not like there's no like flowers and like perfumes around it. It's like he says it as it is, and you're gonna see it in paying for it. It's really like straight to the point, and I really like that. So for sure, I want to read more of Chester Brown.
yeah. I hope he does. He's got like, is he still doing stuff? Like I don't. I think Paying for It was his last book, right?
Was the last one? I don't know when it came out.
This is
No, sorry, Louis
2011.
Riel. Louis Riel is the most recent one. It came out in yeah, I think Louis Riel 2003. So maybe not. Anyway, I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, either way, I mean, I mean, I'm down to continue to talk more Chester Brown. I'll go through the entire list with you, you know, but definitely Paying for It will be the next one we're going to talk about. Um, and I don't know. I don't really know what else to say because I can't really. I'm trying not to like talk about stories. So I think anybody listening, watching, if you're not offended easily, you guys have to check this book out. I know that I personally don't know that I propped up the book well enough to make you want to check it out, but it's hard to really recommend something if I'm not giving like story details. But this is just so out there and such as like surrealist book. Like, he really leans into the surrealism, like he talks about in the book, being inspired by like what he read by Freud, and he leans into that. And it's some of the strongest cartooning that I've probably ever read. And I think that anybody that is, if you want to read a book that is important to the entire culture of comic books, this, I think Chester Brown falls right in line with being an important cartoonist in the history of comic books. So definitely check out Ed the Happy Clown. If you heard us say that it's kind of like offensive, I guess you could check something else out, but I'm pretty sure that he can find a way to offend in any of his books. I'm assuming. I don't know. I haven't read anything else, so I definitely suggest you guys check it out, and then make sure you come back and we check out Paying for It. Any last words?
No, you said everything. I think, yeah. And the Happy
Uh,
Clone was just super weird. That's all I have to say about it.
yeah, it was very very fucking weird. And thank you for reading it with me. I had no idea what was in the book, so it was kind of a weird story to fucking talk about with you. But I'm definitely, I can't wait for us to talk more Chester Brown. So, yeah. And I think next week, I believe Dylan is joining me. But Jen will continue to do the Thought Balloon episodes with me. We're going to talk about Paying for It. I don't know if that, I mean, do you want to, it'll either be a Thought Balloon or just a regular book of the week, whatever you want to classify it as. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
All right, cool. And if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Follow Jen at Life of a Geeky Mind on Instagram. Make sure you like, follow, hit that subscribe button, throw your comments down below, all that stuff, and bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid goes. And on that note, we're out.